Alright, hello everybody, Interjection here, and we've had some pretty exciting news. In Jagex's most recent dev blog, they said that we will rebalance between 10 and 20 cards per week for the next 6 or 7 weeks. Basically, Jagex is planning to show some love to what really is an enormous number of terrible cards that exist in their game. The first batch we can expect are a bunch of potion-themed cards. Now, by the sounds of it, these changes are not final, and every batch of cards each week will come with an opportunity to have a say, which I'm sure will spark a lot of discussion on the Reddit and on the forums, and will certainly result in a fair few videos, certainly on this channel, and I expect on many others as well. So I'm really looking forward to this. That was always my favorite part about Chronicle. I really liked the closed beta when nobody really knew anything about decks, gameplay, anything, and all sorts of things were being tested out all of the time. I really like that environment, and we're going to have something quite like that for the next 2 months or so by the looks of it. So, anti-fire potion. Well, firstly, I want to talk about potions. Potions play a huge role in RuneScape, but are not particularly prevalent in Chronicle. So, I think this is a very good place to start for their very first set of card changes, and definitely something I really like. I think it's good to pick and emphasize the most iconic parts of RuneScape, and potions certainly are that for me. But yes, the gold cost has been decreased by 1, and the health reward increased by 1 as well. So when used optimally, this is Enfeeble that doesn't require you to discard a card, and comes with almost a cabbage heal for free as well. So in terms of slot efficiency, this is a very strong card for its cost. I mean, it's effectively 2 cards in 1. It's almost cabbage, and it's Enfeeble, but you don't discard a card. But the problem is it only works on dragons, which, when we take a look at the collection, there aren't that many of, or at least only really 2 in the neutral pool that you'd consider using it on, unless they make Undead Dragon a dragon as well, which would be cool. I'd like to see that. They could also release new dragons in the future. That's always worth remembering. But at the moment, I can't see this card going into any current deck that exists right now. So the question is, could you make a new deck to take advantage of it? And yeah, you could. You could build an AP sustain agenda that gets armor from Mithril Dragon and pays for supports like either Amulet of Fury or Vampire Power with the gold that KBD drops. Whilst you could build that, it's not going to be a particularly strong deck. Certainly it wouldn't be as nearly as powerful or consistent as current AP sustain decks, and that's partly because KBD is not very good at the moment. Hopefully he will become better within the next 6 or 7 weeks, if you know what I mean, but right now, even with Anti-Fire Potion, he just doesn't compare very well at all to something like Commander Ziliana. Let's do a thought experiment to kind of highlight why this is. So, let's say you have 5 total attack going into a fight versus these creatures. Against Commander Ziliana, he'll take 14 damage in the fight, and then heal for 12 afterwards, which is effectively 2 damage taken for 7 gold, which is pretty good, certainly better than Mimic. Against KBD, firstly, we're going to Anti-Fire Potion, which, assuming we're not at full life already, is a heal for 3. And then in the fight, we will take 6 damage against what was an 8/14 dragon, but it's now obviously a 3/14 dragon. So we take 6 damage in the fight, and we heal for 3. So overall, that is a 3 health loss for 11 gold. Actually, 10 gold, because we spent 1 on the potion. And that's over 2 slots. Of course, we used the first to pay for the potion, and the second to actually fight the dragon in. So really, it's 5 gold per slot, which is worse than Ziliana. And Anti-Fire Potion into KBD is a janky 2-card combo as well. Just, the only upside is that you don't have to take 14 all in one go, where you might die before healing for 12. That is a downside of fighting Ziliana, but KBD and Anti-Fire, it's just not good enough. And even if it was good enough, buying stats with gold just isn't as efficient as killing creatures at the moment, since there aren't actually that many top-end expensive supports that are actually worth paying for. But that topic really is something that needs its own video. So overall, Anti-Fire Potion, good card, thumbs up. King Black Dragon, not so much. Chaos Druid, which now adds 3 cards to your hand, up from 1, and comes with a 3 armor reward as well. So, firstly, What is water? Not a very good card that you would choose to play, but certainly useful for spend effects since it is labeled as a potion, and maybe one day we'll see that clutch water heal for the win, but really what I suspect this is being added for is design space. Like obviously in RuneScape, brewing potions is a huge deal, and you do that basically by adding ingredients to water, or adding more ingredients to existing potions that you've made. So in the future, I wouldn't be surprised if new cards were made that allowed you to, similar to now, spend a potion, or more specifically, spend water from your hand to create effectively a much stronger potion that is added to your hand that has some really awesome and cool effect. Whether that's going to happen or not, at any rate, Chaos Druid is now much, much better than it was before, where it was one of the worst cards in the game. It compared really quite horribly to Krasian Warrior as a draw engine. Like, one random potion that you might not even be able to afford and doesn't necessarily synergize with your deck, it's just nowhere near as good as 2 cards that you actually deliberately put into your deck, and a 1 gold reward as well on Krasian. Yeah, okay. But you now get 2 potions, which still isn't as good as Krasian, but that's deliberately missing the point, because nobody will actually be intending to play these random potions. They are clearly for various spend effect cards that exist in the game, such as Papu Mambo, pretty good, and 2 cards that are also receiving changes, Unstable Concoction and Crystal Flask. So Chaos Druid, especially now that it gives 3 armor as well, definitely a strong card for the potion decks that is now basically what I would say on equal power level, equal comparison at least, to Krasian Warrior. So definitely good, a thumbs up from me, and I like this change. Next up is Cake Meeks, which is better than it was before, but at least compared to the new Chaos Druid is still not actually that good. So this card now also adds 3 potions to your hand, 2 of which are always water, but I want to be clear here, because nobody was ever actually going to play these potions. So it could have given you 3 random potions, 3 waters, it doesn't matter, because the vast majority of the time, the only utility is spending them. So for that reason, I consider the effect of Chaos Druid and Cake Meeks to be exactly the same, but one is free and comes with 3 armor. The other does not, and actually costs 1 gold. So Cake Meeks is clearly the less good card here. Like, I see no reason for it to even cost 1 gold unless in the future water does have more utility than random potions. So we'll have to see about that. But at the moment, it compares poorly to Krasian Warrior, but might still see some play if the Chaos Druid spend potion deck needs more draw and has to lean on it as a result. But yeah, we don't know yet. Ultimately, could be better in the future if the value of water goes up, but otherwise is not as good as Chaos Druid. Definitely an improvement on the original Cake Meeks though, and that's good. Next up, speaking of the spend potion deck, the new Unstable Concoction and Crystal Flask will most definitely now be a part of that. Both, of course, receiving buffs, though Concoction has had its gold cost increased to 1, but otherwise a clear buff to both cards, each certainly more slot efficient than they were before. The question, though, is 1 gold for 9 damage good enough? Well, Chaos Druid is now a thing, so Chaos Druid into Unstable Concoction is kind of now a 2-card combo for 4.5 damage per slot. Is that good enough? As a 2-card combo, no, it's not that strong, given that Troll Chucker doesn't cost anything and actually rewards a gold and isn't a janky 2-card combo, and Venescula has other, lots of other cards like that. For example, Werewolf Rebel, Haunted Leech, etc., etc. That deck is pretty consistent, certainly more consistent than this 2-card combo would be, but obviously Chaos Druid doesn't let you just play 1 Unstable Concoction. You get enough potions for 3 spend effects. It also enables Papu Mambo, and you can also get that 3 armor award, which, if you factor into the equation as a value proposition, is not bad. So the value really comes over the long game from spending all of the potions that you get. For example, You know, if we look at this as a 3-card combo, which is Chaos Druid into Unstable Concoction for 9 damage, into a second Unstable Concoction for another 9 damage, that's 18 damage over 3 slots, which is effectively 6 damage per slot, as well as that 3 armor reward that you get from the Druid, and you still have 1 potion left to spend, which, you know, if you do spend that, the value per slot is enormous, and certainly much better than, like, ordinary Troll Chucker would be. So the question is, will you be able to consistently spend all of the potions and draw the Chaos Druids early enough to actually use them in a meaningful way? If so, then yes, this is very good. Much better than Troll Chucker and other cards similar to it. But we'll have to see. We'll have to see, because I do wonder if the consistency of other existing decks will trump this one. You have to find Chaos Druid, and you have to spend all 3 potions for it to really start getting good. So yeah, definitely something to think about. But regardless, definitely better than it was before, and I'm a huge fan of this change. Up next, our final potion-themed card before we move on to Pirates and the nerfs, which will be happening. I'll do another video on those. I'll do a part 2. But our final card for this video is Explosive Potion. We used to joke about that this card was so bad that instead of costing 2 gold, it should just give you 2 gold. It now gives 1 gold, so they have gone down that route, but even still, it's not that compelling, really. Like, I wouldn't want to play this unless very specifically a new deck type emerges with some kind of location card as its win condition that Explosive Potion could consistently hit. And that location-themed deck would also have to become very popular as well. Like, you can't just queue up with an Explosive Potion in your deck because one guy is playing a deck that wins the game based on a location card. Like, you have to play at least 50% of your matches where this card is actually useful. So, ultimately, yes, there is potential for Explosive Potion to become a tech card, but the conditions of that happening are just so unlikely. This card is still a pile of garbage, but at least it actually does do something now if you have to take it in Dungeoneering. It's no longer literally a detrimental effect. You know, 1 gold is something. If you end up wanting to chuck this away, at least it doesn't spend 2 of your gold. 1 gold is something, and maybe you do discard a really good location. Who knows? But I just can't help thinking that this could easily have been 2 gold, and then maybe it would see play in something like Miracle Ariane. But then I think the problem with that is that the primary use of the card is as gold gain, like a strictly better Black Arm Bandit, which definitely is not what the theme of the potion effect is all about. So 1 gold is probably the most you could have put on it, and thematically, that kind of makes sense. Like, if you blow up a place that your rival likes to go to with your potion, then you can potentially loot the area afterwards, and maybe you do get 1 gold. But yeah, I like the flavor, but the card just doesn't do enough. But really, what else could it do? You can't add more gold for the reasons I just mentioned. Maybe it could destroy both copies of a location that they put in their deck. Like, that kind of makes sense thematically. If you blow up a place, they certainly can't go to it later on in another chapter because you blowed it up. So destroying both copies does kind of make sense. But yeah, I'm not sure about this one. I mean, it has to do more than what it's currently doing, because if you play this card, you know, that's a whole slot you just used up, and you only get to play 20 cards per game at the most, so the effect has to be meaningful, right? But even with this cost reduction, this particular card just isn't. But then again, it is a basic card, and there's no other basic card that discards locations, so maybe that's okay. It's a learning curve, right? You have to figure out what cards are good and which is not, and this is one of those cards which is not. But thank you very much for watching, everybody. Do leave a like if you enjoyed the video. I will do a part 2 covering all of the other cards mentioned in the blog post, which there is a link to in the description below. So, yep, thanks for watching. See you next time.